Good afternoon. It's Friday the 13th of October 2017, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Brian Gerrish. With me in the studio, Mike Robinson. And we're delighted to be joined today by David Scott with Northern Exposure. And of course, David reporting from north of the border. Health, we better start with, I think.
Well, the government has announced £66 million capital funding available to build and establish a national vaccine development and manufacturing centre, and a further £13 million available towards setting up a national medicines manufacturing and innovation centre. They're saying that the UK has strong expertise in researching new vaccines. However, there are gaps in our ability to develop, commercialise and manufacture new vaccines. Establishing a new national centre will bridge that gap, they say, and ensure that the UK is best set up for infectious disease outbreaks. It will also be able to provide expertise and advice to those working in the sector. So that's is that good news, Brian?
Well, I would have thought it was good news, but we did, of course, report yesterday that polio vaccines have been released, which were actually causing polio in children. So I'm a little bit more suspicious about vaccines than I might have been before yesterday. Can I just add to that somebody kindly pointed out to us that the BBC is now helping the government's vaccine policy by coming up with an app which is going to allow a much bigger survey to do with the population in UK and flu.
Yes, and in fact, it's okay, Brian, because the app, although it's tracking you and your movements and your interactions with other people, it'll do so anonymously. So don't worry about it.
Okay, well, there we are. And of course, remember that the BBC is entirely independent, and the BBC has said that we can trust its journalism because anybody who works for the BBC has been approved, and you can trust their information.
Good. Well, CNN, Brian, CNN, I think, takes the biscuit for the worst. It's really hard to describe how fake this news is. This is an exclusive that CNN published yesterday. Even Pokemon Go was used by extensive Russian-linked meddling effort.
Do they mean Pokemon himself?
Right. So this is apparently an exclusive, as I say, and they say that Russian efforts to meddle in American politics did not end at Facebook and Twitter. A CNN investigation of a Russian-linked account shows its tentacles extended to YouTube, Tumblr, and even Pokemon Go. One Russian-linked campaign posing as part of the Black Lives Matter movement used Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Tumblr and Pokemon Go, and even contacted some reporters in an effort to exploit racial tensions and sow discord. And apparently it was all to do with the IRA, but not the Irish Republican movement. No, this is the Internet Research Agency, which is apparently links right back to the Kremlin. David, I think I'll bring you in at this point and ask, how ridiculous does it have to get before these people just hide their heads in shame?
Worse, it would appear. I saw on YouTube as little thing came up, CNN broadcasting live. I clicked on it last night, and it's just never-ending nonsense. They were again saying, well, Trump is literally Hitler, and they just go round and round and round with the same non-stories, trying to make a political point. It does have its comical side, but it's clearly an attempt to subvert the political process, exactly what they're accusing the Russians of doing, of course.
Shall we just mention that somebody has come into our chat room and pointed out that rather than Pokemon, it should be Putamon.
Yes, and Patrick Henningsen then this morning pointing at 21st Century Wire, pointing out that they're trying to get this narrative into the UK as well, of course, because, well, the headline here is Media's Blame Russia Smear Campaign now being used to discredit Corbyn and Labour. And really, it's just incredible. Trying to raise tensions over the possibility or the fact that British MPs are appearing on Russia Today, and therefore that is all about Russian interference in British politics as well.
But didn't we have young Stephen Kinnock, who was actually in Russia working in Moscow with one of the NGOs? Eventually was asked to leave by the Russians because the Russians said, actually, what's going on here is effectively subversion. It's helping to destabilise Russia. So we've had British politicians working inside Russia
David?
Let's say a little word in favour of Russia Today. There's a chap called Lionel Media, does a lot of commenting, and he's on Russia Today quite a lot, and he's on all sorts of mainstream channels in America, and indeed here. And he says that Russia Today is a bit different because you go on something like MSNBC or the BBC, and there's a huge pre-brief. Right, they'll talk to you about what are you going to say, how are you going to say it, what the lines are you're going to follow, and they basically check everything you're going to say before they let you near the air. He said, Russia Today, just phone them up and say, can you come on at 4:30? He says, yes. Well, we'll phone you at 4:15. Thank you very much. And that's it. They ask him nothing. He can go on there and he says exactly what he wants. It's far freer than the Western media. And of course, that's why we watch it.
I'll add to that, if I may, and they are very polite when you speak to them on the phone, unlike the BBC. Had that very unpleasant experience yesterday, just trying to talk to the BBC, and you're treated like a piece of dirt, I think is the correct expression.
Yeah, quick ad once again for Media on Trial from Stop Wars event taking place on Thursday next week at the Bloomsbury Central Baptist Church. John Pilger speaking, Peter Ford, Patrick Henningsen, Vanessa Beeley, Piers Robinson, Robert Stewart, Tim Hayward. Get along to that if you possibly can. It is going to be a very interesting evening. Now, moving on, David. Peter Cherby's blog, A Diary of Injustice in Scotland. Tell us what he's talking about this week.
This is a remarkable story. It dates back to last year. There's a very powerful international law firm called Clyde & Co. Now they turn over billions, and they have thousands of lawyers all around the world. They're extremely well connected. Police Scotland were going to raid their Edinburgh office, and they turned up with a search warrant. And they were stalled, and the law firm went off to challenge the search warrant. And this became before Lord Brodie. And Lord Brodie decided to block the warrant on the grounds that the evidence that was in the safe of the law firm, which is evidence of child sexual abuse by a well-connected client, was in fact privileged information, and the police were not going to get it. And he also, part of his judgment was that the information was time barred, a time bar which has subsequently been withdrawn by the Scottish Parliament, or is in the process of being withdrawn, rather. So that case fell apart. The case gathering, the police gathering information, the Crown Office gathering information against this well-connected person who's accused of abusing children is dead in the water. And it now transpires that there's money going from, well, us, the taxpayer, to the law firm and presumably to the alleged abuser. The Crown Office and Procurator Fiscal Service paid over £10,000 to the law firm to cover their legal and other costs. And oddly, Police Scotland, who normally spend around £70,000 a year with this law firm buying their expertise, that year spent £213,933.24 with that particular law firm, Clyde & Co. So there seems to be a lot of cash going into Clyde & Co. Surrounding this event. So we appear to be now subsidising the abusers.
This is quite well, sorry, I'm lost for words, really. This is staggering, isn't it? A judge is effectively stopping the police from doing their job in an investigation on the basis that this is confidential information within that law firm. Privileged, yeah, thank you for that, Mike. So basically, we've now got law firms above the law because they could hold, well, what could they hold, supposing they had information of treason by the highest politicians in the land? But don't worry, it's in their safe, so not a problem.
Well, this is it, yes. Is there any limit on the power of these large law firms? And these are international law firms, so they go, they're multi-jurisdictional as well. So if you can afford this sort of representation, what does that buy you? What sort of immunity is purchased by this means? It's very concerning.
Yeah.